Hi, my name is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses with SuccessfulBlackWoman.com. I'm here with my good friend Shaquita Graham with ATECOWeb.com. How are you doing today, Shaquita?
I'm doing great, Noma. How are you?
Excellent. For those that don't know me, I'm also the founder of theblackhomeschool.com. And today we're discussing a topic that came from the blog, theblackhomeschool.com. And it talks about how Black kids are being educated differently than whites. Actually, the article, which Shaquita will give us a quick synopsis of, talks about South Africa and what happened during the times of apartheid and how Black kids were educated differently than kids in the white neighborhoods. And basically, you can say the quote, Shaquita.
Yeah, so basically it goes into how black children, and this happens in the U.S. all the time, we all know it, whites are the curriculum for white children is different than the curriculum for Black children. Black children are engineered, or basically their minds are crudely fashioned for mass labor or to play a support role to white ownership. And I'm just summarizing this quote that was here at the article. The bottom line of it is that the education that our children get in school, many Black children get, is substandard for the purpose of making them only suitable to support white ownership.
Right. Right. So I was just thinking about this, and I thought about the fact that I've been in a position where I seem to have only two choices. The first choice was to be in, what you might call an inner city, or sometimes called a diverse neighborhood, where the schools are not that good, but my kids have the benefit of being around people who are like them. Or I could go to the really, really good schools, and then the downside of that is my kids would be one Black kid or one brown kid amongst a sea of white kids, which on the surface seems like, okay, so what? They're all kids, they're all learning, right? No. And again, those who know me know the story. I've told it several times that my kids had a horrible experience where my son was in a preschool where he was the only Black kid, and my daughter was the only Black kid in her class as well. And I won't retell the story because it's very emotional, but I will say that the third option that emerged for us was I've now been homeschooling our kids for the past 3 years. But I just did want to say that it's the experience of a lot of parents that they feel like they have only those two options.
Yeah, and I've been there. You and I have had very similar experiences, and they're gut-wrenching. When I realized that I had really got up in the morning, got my children dressed, and put them on a bus on the way to their enemy. Right. And I made them subject themselves to our enemies. And the thing that I had to realize is that I can do this. And that's the takeaway that I want to give to other Black parents out there. I know it's scary. It was very scary. Down to the day school was going to start, I was like, I don't know. But we did it, and it's the best decision that I have ever made in my life. And the thing is that it is of the utmost importance that we take ownership of training our children. It's permissible by law. We have the right to do it. We need to do it. And one of the quotes that I say is, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And one way we create a different future for ourselves is through our children. And that's why I founded ATECHO.net, ATTECHCO.net, is for computer science, to start getting them in an awareness of computer science. I'm going to read from this article about that. It says, computer science education is important for all children in the modern era for sure, but it is essential for students of color, especially Black and Hispanic students in the 21st century. Their ability to engage in the workforce and to confront pressing problems of the world will hinge on their ability to use and adapt computation to their own ends. And That's a lot said. So
absolutely. And I want to take it a step further and just take it beyond the workforce. And because we talk a lot about, in that article that you just brought up from the blackhomeschool.com, about how they were training these kids in South Africa, and they do that much here too, is you basically have no intention for this child to actually learn and be educated. What you're actually doing is molding them and fashioning them into a workhorse to support somebody else's dream or to support somebody else's business, but never their own. They're only to be the employee or the worker. And absolutely, I think that it's important for us to train our kids to be able to thrive in the workforce. However, that should not be their only choice. And it should be heavily emphasized to our kids that that's not their only choice. You know, the other day I put up on Facebook and I was like, in case you've been living under a rock, I'm going to tell you something. The American dream is dead. And if you haven't realized this, did I freeze just now?
For a sec.
Yeah, I said the American dream is dead. And I said, if you don't realize that and act accordingly, you'll perish along with it. And what I meant was, I was talking about how when I was coming up and when my parents were coming up, the most important thing was to get that good education and get that good job. Usually if you did those two things, you were almost always guaranteed a good life. And these were people who tended to, finish school in their 20s and then work a job right into their 60s and then retire and get a gold watch and have a nice pension and then live forever, happily ever after. But that's not true anymore. What's happening is a lot of times just dad working and mom taking care of the kids, that doesn't even cut it because dad's not even making enough money. And so mom has to go into the workplace. So that has changed. And then the other thing is we can't assume that when you go to the workplace that you're going to stay there or that it's going to support you and your family. There's a good chance that if they decide that their bottom line is not looking how they want, you are the person that they identify to remove from the payroll and throw your life into a crisis if that's what you've been depending on. So I personally feel like I'm not going to put my kids in a situation where somebody's going to train them and mold their mind to believe that they have to depend on somebody else to feed their family. I already, and I've said this before, I already tell my kids that there's many, many, many ways to approach life. Absolutely, you have to work hard. Absolutely, you may end up working for somebody, but you don't always have to accept what the general society used to try to impose on us, that we should go through this whole thing of just go to school and get a job. You don't have to do that. You can be the one who creates a job. You can be the one who didn't go to school and learns in a different way. There's so many options.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That whole thought process is truly dead. And on the topic of white children being trained different than black children, and you've been to the schools and you've been to the summer camps, to go to a summer camp to learn programming costs $500 a week. To go to a summer camp to learn about robotics, it's $500 a week. To go to a summer camp to learn how to be an entrepreneur, $500 a week. To go to a summer camp to learn debating skills, $500 a week. And many of them in my area get sold out. So those are white kids in those programs. When you look at Stanford courses, Harvard courses, which are open online in many cases, those people in those schools are being learned how to take a product and take it to market. They're learning how to create businesses, and they are learning how to utilize technology. There is no business without technology, bottom line. When I talk about workforce, I am talking about the people who are working for you, okay? You can't, whole workforces are managed online now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're managed remotely. So, technology is the key. There are no businesses without technology. And we have to ask ourselves, are we really preparing our children? See, we have to understand that we are in a system of white supremacy. The institutions, the educational system, the labor market, the entertainment, all of that And in order to get out of that, we have to create new systems. Are our children equipped to do that? Are they equipped to be leaders and be people who are controlling their own destiny and not being able to, not being subordinated and given a plan for their life? Because that is what the education system has said to Black people. You don't need to learn this. All you need to do is learn enough to read the directions that I give you and execute them.
Right.
So again, are we preparing our children to create new institutions and to lead and to innovate? If so, the way you check that is if your children admire Abraham Lincoln, if they admire Benjamin Franklin, if they admire Thomas Jefferson, they're not prepared. Right. If you give your child the doll test, I give my child the doll test.
Absolutely.
You know, that is preparing them mentally, because if they're going to these public schools, these private schools, these Christian schools, they are being taught white supremacy. So if you choose to do that, just know that you're subjecting your child to their enemies and teaching them how to be subjugated to their enemies.
Absolutely. You know, I want to answer questions that I know always come up. You know, Shaquita, you're an expert in the technology field, which is why I love having these conversations about you, because you always rightfully emphasize the importance of technology. But I want to talk to you about, you know, what about me? You know, I'm not a technology expert. What would I do to try and help my kids? And that's where, you know, platforms like the one you've created at TechCo are very important. You don't always have to look at what your kids are going to learn coming from you. It doesn't, and the same thing applies to homeschooling. It's not about you. I don't know all the math in the world from elementary school, because I got my son when he was only in preschool and my daughter when she was in the 2nd grade. I started homeschooling them then. I don't know all the math all the way from the 1st grade all the way to, what is it, you finish with 12th grade? I don't know all that. It's not supposed to come from me specifically, but you have to be a parent who is on the sideline, really guiding your kids' education and understanding that you're always on the lookout for tools, resources, people. Again, one of the things that I value about Shaquita is that she's able to direct me to things that I may not have known myself about technology and what my kids need to learn and what we need to focus on. I will also say that I'm married to a techie, so that it helps too. But my point, though, is that you don't have to look at it as something that comes just from you. Because if you do that, you're creating a ceiling beyond which your kids cannot go. You're the one who's opening the doors for your kids. You're the one who's expanding their horizon beyond yourself. And if you get into that mindset, even if your kids are in school, I've said this before and I'll say it again, even if your kids are in school, you have to understand that that education is not for them. It's not serving them. At the very, very least, you have to supplement it. You have to look at it and help them analyze it and see that some of this that you're learning is actually not correct. Or it may be correct for some people, but it's not correct for you. And this is what's correct. Or start looking here. Start expanding your mind. Start looking beyond this. And if you do that, eventually you'll do better than people who just shove their kids in school and use the school as a babysitting service while they go try and make a paycheck at work. And I'm not knocking that, but we have to do better.
And the thing is, you know, like you and I are both passionate, and so it's inevitable. We get the comments like, how, you know, everybody can't do this. How am I going to do it? And I'm supposed to be trying to feed them. There are so many ways to do this, guys. And that's why, you know, at the Black Homeschool, you're at not only the Black Homeschool, but you have a course in the Black Business School about homeschooling. Yeah. And then at techcoweb.com, I have a course about technically teaching homeschool. I have a webinar talking about the technology that I use to teach my kids. Because like you said, first of all, let me just throw this out there. They're going to school. They're not interacting with the teacher. When I would come up to the school, My kid is always sat in the back of the class, even when I tell them to put them to the front. The teacher has 25 kids to teach. Then they're changing subjects. They're moving around. I read a report that like they're getting less than an hour of actual instruction. And as far as individual attention is less. So you cannot be a worse teacher than what's in the school system. I really doubt it. But at the same time, there's a lot of technology to help you, teach your kids. They have teachers online. So the reason why we're so passionate is because we know you can do it. And so, I'm going to wrap up there. I just do want to say that, I have some great programming at techco.net where we have we have cartoons with Black characters and Black technologists and things like that the kids can learn from. Noma, what did you want to say there?
That's it. And, just to wrap up, I do want to encourage people to check out ateccoweb.com. And then the other one is atecco.net. And also check out theblackhomeschool.com. The reason why I created that platform was when I decided to homeschool my kids, it was a very interesting time. But what I will say is when I started looking for resources to help me to make that transition, it was very, very hard to find them. I found a lot of information about homeschooling, but it did not specifically talk about the experience of a Black parent and why they're homeschooling their kids and what happens when they do. So what I did was I eventually started the platform, and I've really done my best to get people who talk a lot about the experience of the Black kid, talk about the Black public schools, the public school system from the perspective of a Black parent and from the perspective of a Black kid. And then also I've built a community. You can check out the Black Homeschool is a community on Facebook. And a lot of times when parents are starting out, they want to ask other parents, I'm dealing with this, or I'm thinking about this, and you ask questions and so forth. So I just want to let you know it's really a community of parents who want to do the best for their kids, and sometimes they feel like they're not equipped, and we're there to help you. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, we're trying to help, definitely, and encourage you. So thank you all for viewing. Again, check out those sites, and we want to see you succeed in this, and we're not trying to hold it up as something to bash you with, but to say, let's do this. Let's take ownership of our children's education, and let's build for the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Noma.
Thank you, Shaquita.